So The Flash had one movie.
It was me, man.
One
I made
movie. And it was absolute trash. Even though Jaden Smith said it changed his life, it was trash. And not only was it trash, but it was trash that didn't even understand that it was trash. They tried to do that cute thing that all superhero movies do, where they put like a little fun cameo in the film of like a famous person. Kind of makes it cute, kind of makes a cute moment. But in doing that, they made one of the most disrespectful scenes. They took these titans of industry and they shoved them in a dumpster. Like trash! Oh, don't believe me? Well, come on. Let's look into this. So it starts here in this Chronobowl scene, which I could make an entire separate video about, just describing the absolute terrible things that this scene has in it and how it doesn't make any sense. But to get into it, the Chronobowl is basically the movie's time-traveling, universe-hopping bubble that creates more problems than it solves. But to set up what we're doing here, after time travel shenanigans, Old Barry, New Barry, and Evil Barry are all fighting when a stray lightning bolt hits the outside of the Chronobowl, breaking it open and showing that the universes in the multiverse are crashing into each other. And of course, these multiverse characters are cameos. Look kids, if you can't create something good, resort to cameos. Isn't that right, Fozzie Bear?
Waka waka!
Thank you, Fozzie. This is supposed to be a celebration of characters and DC history, although based on the context, you wouldn't know it. We flash through worlds dying and decaying, and the first world we stop by is George Reeves. This is George Reeves, the star of 1950s Adventures of Superman TV show. For an entire generation, he was Superman. He was the first live-action Man of Steel that millions of kids grew up watching. He walked so Christopher Reeves could fly, but George Reeves' real story isn't a happy one. Off-screen, Reeves spent years struggling with Hollywood typecasting. Studios saw him as a just Superman, and the pressures from that role followed him everywhere. He wasn't landing the dramatic work he wanted. He was wrestling with depression. His romantic life was complicated and tied to powerful industry figures. He was a real human being under immense emotional strain. And then, in 1959, at just 45 years old, George Reeves died from a gunshot wound. It was ruled a suicide, but almost nothing about this case sits cleanly. There are multiple bullet holes, conflicting accounts, rumors of foul play, theories involving jealousy, covers-up, and studio pressures. To this day, his death is considered one of Hollywood's most tragic and controversial mysteries. It's not just sad, it's haunting. Now cut back to The Flash, a movie that Stephen King said, quote, "As a rule, I don't care a lot about superhero movies, but this one is special. It's heartfelt, funny, and eye-popping. I loved it." We see this man, who has such a tragic relationship with this role, get resurrected like a creepy weird guy. I don't trust this guy. George Reeves wasn't asked. George Reeves' estate, as far as anyone can tell, didn't approve anything. His long, painful history with the role isn't acknowledged. His mysterious death is not contextualized. His legacy is not represented. He's treated like a clip art in a superhero slideshow, which isn't what this tragic case, this man who obviously dealt with so much pain, deserved. He was arguably one of the pillars who started this whole thing we call superhero movies. Now this one isn't as rough, because guess what? He's not a real person. Jay Garrick is the identity of the original Flash in the comics. In the Flash TV show, he was portrayed by Teddy Sears and then by John Wesley Shipp. And that was cool because John Wesley Shipp played the Flash in the original 90s Flash TV show. It was a cool way of honoring the actor and paying respects to what came before. So I guess you're wondering who they got to play Jay Garrick in the movie. Maybe it was John Wesley Shipp? Maybe Grant Gustin? Nope, it was no one. Correction, it was a CGI render of editor John Ballantyne, but really, no one. Meanwhile, remember, Tom Cruise said that this movie was everything you want in a movie. Really? Because I usually don't want a CGI intern in a Halloween helmet pretending to be the first Flash. I'm sure that this was great for him, but it also doesn't look too much like him. It doesn't look like Anyone? None of these people really look like people. It's not like we were kind of promised a payoff to the TV show anyway.
Oh, do you want a selfie, bro?
No,
I'm sorry.
we're not.
Oh, we set up the fact that these two universes are in the same omniverse, but only the TV show could pay that off because it's TV and this is a movie. Oh, I get it. The cameo was just for people who knew him to look at this Hermes-looking person and go, hey, All right, after George Reeves' deeply unsettling cameo, and after Jay Garrick's generated by the free trial cameo, The Flash decided to get serious because now we arrive at the cameo. Christopher Reeves, the Superman, the blueprint, the man whose performance literally defined the entire genre. And next to him, Helen Slater, the original live-action Supergirl. Two icons, two legends, two people who absolutely deserve a genuine tribute. So how does the movie honor them? By having them stand perfectly blank-eyed glossy like Funko Pops come to life, silently watching their universe collapse. Let's talk Christopher Reeves first. This is a man whose 1978 film is the reason superhero movies exist today, in the form that they do. You'll Believe a Man Can Fly wasn't just a slogan, it was a gold standard. But his story after that, well, it's kind of complex. He suffered an accident that landed him paralyzed from the neck down. He became an activist, an advocate, an inspiration. He used his celebrity status to fight for real people in the real world. He turned tragedy into purpose. And then he passed away in 2004. So why is this movie in 2023 digitally resurrecting him? He doesn't speak, he doesn't smile, unless you can call this a smile. He doesn't have any impact with Barry or Supergirl or anyone. He's not really even a part of the story. He's just there in a glowing orb, like a collectible. And worst of all, his estate wasn't even consulted. His family wasn't involved. His children didn't approve anything. This wasn't a loving tribute. This was IP management. If your tribute to a real human requires neither permission nor their input, maybe it's not a tribute. Now let's talk about Helen Slater. Helen Slater is great. Her 1984 Supergirl film wasn't exactly a masterpiece, but she gave it everything. She cared about the character. She returned to play Supergirl's mom on TV. She's a living actress who loves the legacy. And this movie put her by Christopher Reeves floating like she's waiting for her number to be called. She might as well be photobombing her own cameo. She's literally alive. She could have filmed something. She could have delivered a line. They didn't even ask. This pairing could have been incredible, but instead, these two die seconds later. Next, we get Adam West Batman and the Joker.
Only the Joker would think of that.
That's it. Watch it again.
Only the Joker would think of that.
Now here's the thing about Adam West. For decades, people mocked him. They ridiculed his show. They called it silly, foolish, and childish. They said it wasn't real Batman. And yet, without that show, Batman probably wouldn't have survived as a pop culture icon long enough to get darker interpretations that people love today. That's it. It's just, hey, remember this thing? Here's the laugh. Moving on. Imagine dedicating years of your life to a role. Imagine becoming a generational cultural icon. Imagine fighting through decades of mockery until people finally respect what you did. And then your big multiversal cameo is being the audio watermark in another character's cameo. It makes the Adam West era feel like an afterthought, a checkbox, a cameo you put in just because the studio's note said, hey, don't forget the old Batman fans, or we don't have enough Batman in our movie. Add another. But it doesn't honor them. It doesn't even acknowledge what their eras meant. It just uses it like background noises before the VFX reel moves on. But hey, James Gunn said this was one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. So I guess it's good. And then, just when the cameo carousel seems incapable of getting any stranger, we get this. Nicolas Cage, Superman, fighting a giant spider. If you don't know Superman's film history, this might look like a glitch in the Matrix. If you do know the history, it still doesn't make any sense because this cameo isn't referencing a released movie. It's referencing a famously unmade script, Superman Lives, the version of Superman produced in the late 1990s. The one associated with Kevin Smith and Tim Burton, a black-suited emo Superman concept with a rooftop battle against a giant spider. It's one of Hollywood's most infamous what could have been myths. That's already wild enough. And here's where the cameo becomes deeply tone deaf. This cinematic resurrection comes during a sequence where universes are literally dying by collapsing into each other. The movie treats those dead universes like cheap digital assets, not as histories, not as people, not as stories. It lumps Nicolas Cage's unmade legacy into the same bucket as George Reeves' tragic legacy, Christopher Reeve's heroic legacy, and decades of DC history, then kills them all in one slideshow crash. If you ever wished for a version of Superman that might have existed, a what if born in the 90s, this cameo reduces that longing to a blink and you miss it VFX gag. And don't think for a second that this resurrection was done by accident. If anything, it highlights how studios treat legacy like IP. Not people, not stories, not memories, just assets. Because trust me, if you're resurrecting a version of Superman that never even got made, you better have a story behind it, an emotional core, some respect for the people who developed it, the artist, the writers, the hopes. The Flash? It had none of that. It just reaches into the history box, grabs whatever it owns, and just drags it across the screen like old clothes on a sales rack. And just like that, the worlds collide. Fan service road is destroyed. So not only do we see our favorite characters die, but we see weird, twisted CGI versions of them. No one was asked about the use of these people's likeness. It was just done for the sake of people pointing at the screen and going, "Oh my gosh, it's the guy from the Thing!" And that's not how we pay off years of DC legacy. That just sucks. This was the emotional impact of the Flash movie. I know we haven't talked too much about the actual Flash movie, but this is the moment where old Barry realizes that him saving his mother caused this whole issue that he's now in, and that he's gonna need to go back in time and witness his mom dying again. But instead of letting this moment hold and linger, we see cameos and watch as our Flashes are dumbfounded by worlds colliding and history being destroyed. The legacy that these people demanded was not here. It sucked. This movie sucked. It all just sucked. Cameos can be fun, but they're not a replacement for story, respect, or basic human decency. The Flash forgot that, and that's why this scene fails.